Okay, now I have hidden myself, but not the others. Well, hopefully they won't get in the way of the rest of the slides. So welcome to Capstone Preparation. I'm Lori Crane. I'm kind of pretty excited actually to be teaching this class. I taught this class the first time it was offered, which was like 11 or 12 years ago, and we had, I think it was like 7 or 8 students in the entire school taking the class. Now we have courses in each of the departments, and so it's a different thing than it was then, but I'm excited to be doing it again. I am faculty in CBH. My primary area is in community behavioral health. Some of you are, well, at least according to what I know, there's one maternal and child health student. Are they here? No? Okay. And then there's a few leadership and public health practice students, and I'm gonna make a guess that the people that are online might be in the leadership and public health practice because that's a distance program. And then are the rest of you CBH? Or yeah, okay. So hi. So I'll just go ahead and get started. The purpose of this class is for you to create the proposal for your capstone. So that is what we're going to do all semester. That's the goal. If this class is graded pass-fail, so if you get an acceptable proposal by December 6th, you'll pass the class and you'll be ready to move on to capstone integration. That's our goal. We're not really going to grade individual assignments. I'll go through the timeline of what we expect in terms of turning things in and getting feedback on those things, but the goal is to get that proposal done. And please stop me at any point if you have any questions. And I have to admit, I'm really bad at watching whether the people online are like waving their hand or something. So if you see anything going on up there, will you let me know? I think there's a way for people online to actually raise their hand. So will you guys keep an eye on those boxes up there and tell me if you see somebody raising their hand? And I guess actually, for those of you online, I think you can unmute yourself and interrupt me. That would be okay too if you want to do that. Okay. So what I'm going to do today is give you an overview of what the intention of the capstone project, what you should be looking in a capstone project, what you should be accomplishing in your capstone project, with the idea that some of you don't know yet what your project is going to be. Actually, I'm tempted. I think I'm going to ask. So how many think you know what your project is going to be? If you could raise your hands. Okay, so it looked to me like maybe a quarter of you raised your hand, and that's fine. I mean, and I do want to say that if you talk to students in other concentrations, those other concentrations might have different policies. I've heard that EPI wants you to know what your project is before you come into the capstone preparation course. That's not really the way we do it in CBH. It's okay if today you don't really have a clue. I'm guessing you kind of have an idea of what you'd like to do. Okay, people are nodding, that's good. But we have 15 weeks for you to figure it out, to connect with a preceptor, to figure out what it is you're gonna do. 15 weeks is a pretty long time. So, but you don't want to get behind, you need to keep moving along, or you could get to the end of that 15 weeks and still not have a project. So so today we're going to talk about finding a project, finding a preceptor, and then I've got the sessions sort of paced out over the semester to move you through the different parts of the proposal and what you need to do. And I want to introduce Dr. Penny Bennett, who just came in. She is one of our, we're going to have, there's 3 of us who are going to be coaches for the capstone, and everybody will be assigned a coach. I'm a coach, Dr. Bennett is a coach, and Dr. Patty Valverde is the 3rd coach, and she's traveling today, so she's not here. So I've got a slide towards the end that gives you who your coach assignments are. So we're there to help you in this process. So what is a capstone? This is going to be interesting. I can only read like most of my slides here. So the goal of the capstone is that you have an opportunity to show us what you can do as a emerging professional in public health. The goal is that you're doing a independent project that builds upon the skills and the knowledge that you gained through the MPH program. When I say independent, in public health, we're almost always working in teams. It's kind of actually hard to think of an example where we're not working in a team. So we don't expect you to be doing something without the input of others. You might very well have a team, but you should be the leader of that team. You should be the person who's conceptualizing things. You should be the person who's pulling everything together. You should not be just following along and someone else is kind of directing what you're doing and you're just doing what they told you to do. And like I said, we want the project to demonstrate what you can do. So we're not going to talk about it today specifically, but you know by now that all of our programs are based on competencies, and you'll need to select competencies that you're going to address in your capstone project. You'll have discretion over which competencies you pick, but the goal is that you're demonstrating that you can do some of these things that we're expecting that you can do by the end of your MPH program. Some other things are about the capstone. We want it to be a benefit to a community or population. So we're not just doing an academic exercise here. The goal is to create projects that are going to have some sort of benefit. It might not be immediate benefit, it might be a long-term benefit, but that it is working towards some sort of public health benefit. Your project might, or hopefully also contributes to the body of knowledge in whatever area it is that you're working in public health. It's optimum if it also meets your academic goals and your professional goals. So as you're embarking on picking a project, think about what's the job that you want to have, and if you can find a capstone project that fits within where you want to see your career go, that's great. And in fact, I've spent a lot of time over the years looking at what students did for their practicum projects and what their jobs are later. And there's often a close connection between what they did for their capstone and what their job ends up being. It's a chance to develop knowledge and skills in whatever that area is, and also to connect with people in that area. So use that to your advantage as you think about picking a project. There needs to be a tangible product from the work. So what I mean by that is you can't just be fitting into normal operations of an agency, let's say, and doing their daily work. You have to have a project that has some sort of fruition, and we'll go through what types of things those might be. But it needs to have a culminating thing that is at the end of that project. And then you also, as a requirement, have to have a written deliverable. So you must turn in something in writing that can be assessed by the capstone instructors. Again, please stop me if you have any questions. So just sort of as an overview of the expectations of you as a student, you need to lead the project from the conceptual development, which is what you're going to do this semester, through the final presentation, which will be, for most of you, will probably be at the end of spring semester. We'll talk about different timelines that you might be on, but generally you do capstone preparation one semester and capstone integration the next semester. You will most likely need to identify subject matter experts that can help you as you do your project. You most likely don't have all the expertise you need to complete the project, and you need to figure out who those people are going to be that are going to help you. You're going to develop a project proposal. You're going to develop a timeline. So part of the proposal is to have a timeline so that you and we as your instructors can tell that you can actually accomplish this within the period of time that you have available. In some cases, you may be doing a research project, in which case there are human research human subjects requirements. And you should have, I think, all taken the COMERB training before you did the practicum. Is that right? Just, yes? Does everybody remember doing training? Yeah, okay, I'm seeing some nods, good, okay. So we'll talk either at the next session or the session after that about the potential need for COMERB or IRB review of your project. You will then submit your capstone proposal to us, and then once it's approved, you can undertake the work, and then you'll enroll in capstone integration. And in terms of starting the work, you really should wait until you get your proposal approved, so that if your coach has suggestions for that project, you're able to integrate those suggestions. So you are welcome to move through the timeline of this course more quickly. So if you are one of the people who already knows what your project is going to be, and feel like you're just about ready to start, you can get that proposal done sooner, and you can have your capstone coach review it. You're going to have to connect with them to make sure that that they're able to review it on the timeline that you're hoping for. But please wait to start doing the work until you have it approved, so that you don't get started and you've done something that's unfortunately not appropriate for whatever your project is. Okay, so here is a list of types of projects. And I'll tell you, and I'll kind of give you a little tour of Canvas later, but there is a document on Canvas that goes into a little more description of what these could be. And this is not necessarily everything that you could do for a capstone project. If you have another idea, tell your coach about it and see if it would work. But people have developed grant proposals. Data analysis and report, and if you were in EPI or biostats, they most likely would make you do that. That's what they want their students to do, is a data analysis and a report that's written like a research paper, like a publishable research paper. In this department, we're much more flexible and consider all different types of projects and all different types of deliverables. Capacity building project and epidemiologic investigation, maybe something related to program planning, implementation, or evaluation, quality assurance or quality improvement projects, survey development and implementation, community assessments, or health policy related work. It's a huge scope of work that you could do, and think broadly about what your interests are and what's going to serve you best. So I wanted to just say a little bit now, and we're going to have a whole session in a few weeks on the methods section of your proposal, but I want you to just think now about, this is a huge list of different types of projects. All of those projects require methods. So when we think of methods, I think at least what comes to mind for me immediately is things like quantitative and qualitative research methods. That might be part of your project, or your methods might be something related to program development, in which case we expect you to articulate evidence-based systematic strategies that you're going to use for that program planning. So whatever your project is, there needs to be a set of methods that are systematic, evidence-based, and you can describe those to us in your proposal, how you're going to systematically go about doing whatever the work is. So methods will always be important, and we're going to expect a fair amount of rigor and detail about what the methods are, so that we can see that you're doing a quality project. Okay, I'll move on. Okay, so we have this rough estimate of expect to spend at least 90 hours working on the project and preparing the final products. I have no idea how closely that relates to what people's experience is. I don't know if any of you have talked to students who've already finished their capstones and asked them how much time they spent. I don't really know. But now this is work you're going to do once your proposal is finished, but it should be a substantial body of work. So this slide shows you some different potential timing models for capstone preparation and then capstone integration. So the first row, it says enroll in capstone preparation, develop a project, get your proposal approved, and then the next semester, enroll in capstone integration, carry out the work, and participate in the public health forum. So that is sort of the normal thing. Most students take capstone preparation one semester, capstone integration the next semester. Now, if you're on a faster track and you get your proposal done early, that the next row shows you actually starting to carry out your work this semester. But again, please make sure that you have your proposal approved before you start the work. But if you get your proposal done and it satisfies your coach and your coach signs off on it, you can get started on that work, and that'll give you more time to get a project completed. And then the third line there shows enrolling in capstone preparation now, and then maybe you need a semester in between to carry out the work, and you won't enroll in capstone integration until 2 semesters later. So for your group, that would be summer, or could be even longer. But I think it could get too long. Anybody planning to, well, let me ask it this way. How many of you are planning to do capstone integration next semester? Yeah, so I think looks like that's all of you. So that's normal. Let's move on. So how does your concentration affect your choice of your capstone project? In this group, we have students in the CBH concentration, we have students in maternal and child health, we have students that are in leadership and public health practice. We also have students who have a global component added onto their degree. So it looked from the list like many of you are CBH plus global. And then we also have some custom concentrations, and that's a small select group of people. So I'm not going to go in. I think everybody who's in that custom concentration knows who they are, so I won't go into what that entails. But so we have a diverse group of people, and how does your concentration affect what you choose to do for your capstone? At a very minimum, at least one of the competencies that you'll address in your capstone has to be from your concentration. So if you're CBH or you're MCH, or you've got a global component, or you're LPH, or you're a custom concentration student, you need to have at least one of the competencies that you have that are either pre-described for you in most cases, or if you're in a custom concentration, it's one of those competencies that you selected for your custom concentration that needs to be integrated into your capstone project. And I have a note here, ignore things you might hear from students in other concentrations, because again, we are more flexible in this group than if you were in epidemiology. They would expect a quantitative data analysis, and they would have certain requirements for that quantitative data analysis. We don't have that requirement here. And the other thing I want to make sure everybody hears, so everybody look up off your computers, is we don't require a research paper as the final deliverable. And some concentrations, epi and biostats, I believe, will require a research paper with background methods, results, and conclusions. That is not the requirement here. That might be what you end up doing depending on what your project is, but it's not the requirement here. So if you hear later on that you need to be doing that, go, wait a minute, I heard from Lori that we don't have to do that in CBH. So remember that, because it comes, was that a raised hand? No, that was just okay. So I've heard it come up with capstone integration instructors. So next semester you'll be in capstone integration. I'll talk a little bit about how that's organized, but there have been misunderstandings about this. So I want you to hear, again, we don't require a research paper. That might be what you're doing, but that's not required by this department. So if you are in CBH, it took me a while to track this down, but I found this list of things that we've outlined in CBH that we would like projects to include. So there should be a clearly stated goal or objective that has public health relevance. So we want projects that have public health relevance. You all know what public health is. We want it to demonstrate the student's knowledge and development of expertise in, I can't read the rest of my slide, but in the area through a critical review of literature or of work being done in the area. And we're going to talk more next session, which is in 2 weeks, about the background and the level of attention we want you to put into the background. But we want you to show us, as you write your proposal, that you understand the background that's relevant to whatever your project is. We would like to see in CBH a demonstration of the underlying social science theory that the project uses. So if you're in CBH, you all took CBHS 6611, probably from Jen Leiferman, where you went into the theoretical background that our field uses. And we want to see that come through in your project. We want your work plan to have a systematic approach and a critical analysis of the, whatever the rest of that slide says. And then we want you to demonstrate an understanding of the specific application the project has in community and behavioral health. It should link to the competencies in community behavioral health. So you'll have to pick at least one competency from community behavioral health. So we should be able to see that linkage in whatever project it is that you develop. Now, if you're in maternal and child health, there is this statement that, again, I can't really read, but your capstone project needs to address some sort of public health challenge that faces women, children, and or families of the 21st century. So as you're developing your project, again, it can be any of that range of things or more that I showed on a previous slide, but it should have some relevance to women, children, and families. And we'll ask you to articulate that in your proposal. Your proposal has an impact section, and in that section is where it should be clear that your project impacts women, children, or families. If you're doing a MCH Global, we also want your project to show some. Do you want to talk about this, Penny? These are like almost exactly your words on the slide.
It just means that you need to have a component that is global, and it can be done in a variety of ways. It can be working with a group of international population that is international here. It can be working with a program here that has a similar program in another part of the world, and comparisons. Basically, we need to think through, and I'm very much willing to help you find this connection to something global if you are in that area.
So for those of you on the internet, what Dr. Bennett said is that there needs to be some sort of global connection. It could be that you're working internationally, but it could also be that you're working with a population in Colorado that is an immigrant population, a refugee population. It could also be that you're working with a domestic population, but you're making comparisons to how things might occur in some other global location. So it needs to connect in with your focus on global health in some way. And I think I've assigned all the global people to Dr. Bennett, so she can help you with there actually is no MCH Global person, from what I can tell, enrolled in the class, but there are a lot of CBH Global people. Yeah, like maybe 7 or so, something like that. Now, if you're LPH, here's what you need to think about and address as you develop your project. So how will the project demonstrate leadership? Oh, I didn't write that. How will the project demonstrate leadership in your project or enhance your capacity to lead? For example, will it be through specific leadership? I think it says styles, communication with stakeholders, your project development or project management skills. I don't know what that word is. Something thinking or problem solving abilities, or will you help promote public health practice through your project? So If you're in the LPH concentration, we want you to think about those competencies again that are part of the LPH concentration and how those come into your project. And again, it can be a huge range of projects, but we want it to have some relevance to leadership and public health practice. And I think I assigned, I think all the LPH, or almost all the LPH people are assigned to me. I think there might be some, actually, we'll see when we look at the list. I might have all the LPH people. So how are you gonna find a practicum project? You could talk to your preceptor, I'm sorry, I keep saying practicum, your capstone project. How are you gonna find a capstone project? You could talk to your preceptor from your practicum. So we encourage people to think about their practicum site as an opportunity for their capstone. And the main reason that we do that is you have more of an opportunity to develop skills and expertise in whatever that area was if you spend more time with that agency. And it's an efficient way to get a capstone project as well. So that's one thing to think about, is to think about your practicum site and whether that has an opportunity for a capstone project. You can talk to your academic advisor. Everybody should have an academic advisor. Does anybody, well, I don't want to ask if somebody doesn't know who their academic, if you don't know who your academic advisor is, maybe send Bernie an email. Bernie Gutierrez, who's our department administrator, she keeps the list of the advisors. You can talk to your capstone coach. That's if you don't know what your project is and you are, I would say meet with your capstone coach early on and get that capstone coach's ideas about what your project might be. Colorado SPH Connect. Does anybody know what that is? Okay, I see some nods. So that is a website that's available through the school, and potential preceptors post opportunities on that site. So if you don't already have one, I think you have to ask for a login in order to be able to get into that site, but that is one place that you might look for an opportunity. You can also, and in my experience, this is maybe the most common thing, is talking to agencies that are doing the kind of work you want to do. So let's say you wanted to do work in family planning, you might look to agencies that deliver family planning services and talk to them about whether they have a project that you could do. And then there's a few people who said they already have a project, so I wonder if anybody would be willing to tell us how they identified their project. I think some of those people in the back there already said they have projects in mind. Suddenly no one has a project. Okay. All right. Well, maybe we'll do that in a small group later. So can you conduct your project at your place of employment or based on prior coursework? The answer is yes. But if you're doing it at your place of employment, we really want that to be something in addition to what is part of your everyday job. We want it to be a special project. Again, it needs to be something that you're the primary person conceptualizing, that you're seeing it through and leading it from start to finish, that you're responsible for the final deliverable. So it is possible to do it at your regular place of work, but we want it to really be clear that this is your work and it's a project that's set aside from your normal activities. And then the other question that comes up is previous class projects. So it could be that you did a project in a class and now you have an opportunity to take that to another level and do it as a capstone project. That's fine. I have to admit though that I teach the program planning class in the spring, and in that class I get very, very familiar with the students' projects. And then I have had the opportunity to go to the Capstone Forum and see a few students presenting projects that look really, really similar to what they did in my class. And it's possible that that's totally legitimate if you've done something for the program planning class or whatever class, and then there's an extension of that really is a project in itself that's separate, then that's fine. But it should really not be a project you already did in another class or you're currently doing in another class. It needs to have separate components that make it clear that it's a different project. I think I have a note here that says, if you're in doubt of anything, ask your capstone coach. So who is going to be your preceptor? So thinking about this issue of, do you want to stick with whoever your preceptor was for practicum, or do you want to find something new? Some pros and cons related to that. If you stay with your practicum preceptor, again, you can go more in depth on a project. So maybe that project, I mean, I'm assuming, has everybody done their practicum already? I think, okay. I think probably there might be a few people, maybe some dual degree students who have not yet done their practicum. So if you've already done your practicum, some of this is sort of, you know, it's a lost opportunity. But if there's a project established in your practicum that you can then extend into a capstone, you have a lot more time to really do a quality project. So something to think about. You can get experience on a different facet of whatever project that you worked on with your practicum. So learn if your area were something like family planning, maybe you did something for your practicum and now you can learn some other part of family planning and do a project in some other part, just widening your expertise in that area. And then it also strengthens your relationship with your preceptor. And this could come in very useful if you would like to get a job in that agency. If you've done a practicum, then you do a capstone. They've seen your work over 2 different types of projects, and they may be super happy to have you stay with their agency. On the other hand, if you join a new preceptor, it gives you a chance to get experience in a different area. I think what we find in general in public health is people move to different public health areas throughout their career. We have people trained in community behavioral health who end up working in environmental health. We have environmental health people who end up being epidemiologists. People move throughout their careers. So if you can develop multiple areas of expertise, I think that is that can be a very good thing. Exposure to new colleagues. But the downside of a new preceptor is you have less time to carry out the work. So if you think you have maybe somewhere around 90 hours for this capstone project, 90 hours in itself is not really very much to get to do a really in-depth project. But if your practicum is connected to that, you have 120 hours with your practicum, another 90 for your capstone, you can do a lot more substantial work in whatever that area is. The role of the preceptor. So preceptor roles, in my experience, vary widely. Sometimes the preceptor is somebody who is giving you access to maybe a data set or a population, and then they're kind of standing back and they're not maybe that involved throughout your project. So as I go through this slide, I just want you to recognize that this can vary a lot. Sometimes preceptors are meeting with you weekly and they're very involved in what you're doing, and sometimes they're sort of standing back and you're doing the work. So they do need to be involved as you develop your project because they need to sign off on it. So they need to collaborate with you as you develop your project. They need to provide you relevant background about your project. So for example, if a preceptor is providing you access to their population or their agency records, you need to understand the context in which you're working and what that agency or organization does and how your project fits within that agency. In many cases, they provide expertise related to the project, but not always. Sometimes you go into an agency where you end up being the expert for what you're doing because they don't have that expertise, and that's why they want you to do a project with them. So maybe your agency has some data and they have nobody within their agency who has the ability to analyze that data, and they're bringing you in because they want you to analyze the data. In that case, you may not get a lot of guidance from the preceptor because they don't know how to analyze the data. Or maybe they need a program evaluated and they don't have any skills for program evaluation, and they're bringing you in because you can be an evaluation expert for them. So they might have expertise, they might not. If they don't have the expertise, then you most likely need to make sure that you have expertise coming from somewhere else, because you are still learning, and you may have questions, you may encounter problems that your preceptor wouldn't be able to help you with. Preceptors need to be able to meet with the student to provide supervision. Again, that level of supervision is going to vary a lot. I think the rest of that slide says, and mentor them. Provide necessary resources. So again, maybe they're providing you access to data or access to a population. And at the end, that preceptor is going to provide written feedback about their work with you and how that went. So that does become part of your final evaluation for the capstone at the end of capstone integration. So as you're picking a project, think about your skill set. We read a lot of proposals where students are proposing to do work in an area where they haven't taken a course. A couple of examples would be proposing to do a qualitative project when they haven't taken the qualitative methods class. Now, there is a little bit of qualitative methodology in the research methods class that I think everybody in LPH, CBH, and MCH takes, but the custom concentration students may not. So there's a little qualitative in there, but it's not much. And so if you're proposing to do a qualitative project and you haven't taken the qualitative methods class, your coach is going to say, wait a minute, how do you have the qualifications to do this project? So now there might be a good answer to that. Maybe you already have expertise doing qualitative work. I was meeting with a student a couple weeks ago who is in this situation, and we looked online and we found a qualitative methods course that she could take online in order to get her skills up in order to do a qualitative project. But we're going to push you to show us that you can do this, because having been involved with capstone integration, I'll tell you, it feels pretty commonplace that somebody comes to us and they say, I don't know how to do this, help me. And you really don't want to next semester be in a situation where you don't know how to do it and you don't know who to go to. You don't have anybody who's committed to you to help you through that whatever that methodological issue is. Part of your proposal requires you identifying who's going to help you with different types of things that are going to be needed for your project. And so we'll look at that later, but you will need to list people, and you need to keep in mind that you should be doing the work. They should be giving you advice or guiding you, but you should be doing the work for your project. You also need to keep in mind that people's time is limited, so you need to be communicating clearly with those people about what your needs are going to be as you move forward in your project. And don't put somebody on the proposal unless you've discussed it with them. We do see a lot of proposals where, that's one of the last things in your proposal, and you're in a hurry, and it's December 5th and it's due on December 6th. And so you put names in because you know that Virginia Visconti teaches the qualitative methods class, so I'll just put her name down, but you haven't actually talked to Virginia and found out that she's already committed to 15 other students to help them, or whatever it is. So we're going to be really watching carefully that you either have the expertise and you can tell us why you think you have that expertise, or you've got somebody who's going to help you who has committed to helping you. So who might those subject experts be? They might be faculty members, they might be community practitioners, or a community something, whatever the rest of that slide says. But their overarching role is to mentor you in whatever that area is where you don't have your own expertise, or you have some expertise but not at the level that might be needed to carry out your project. So they should be supporting you in developing the project scope of work. So, you know, when you write your methods, you have to have solid methods. If you haven't taken a qualitative evaluation or qualitative methods course and you're writing methods for a qualitative project, your coach is probably going to notice that. So you're going to need someone to help you to get those methods in line. The subject expert helps build your skills. They most likely need to meet with you regularly to make sure that you're doing the project the way, in a quality way. And then if there's concerns about the project, we occasionally have subject experts or preceptors come to us as faculty and say, this is during capstone integration, this student doesn't have the skills, or it's not going well, or they're not meeting the timeline, or they're not showing up for meetings. So they're also in communication with your instructors. And then we hope that your subject experts and or your preceptor will come to the public health forum. It's nice for them to see the results of your project. It's nice for them to see the scope of things other students are doing, and it's nice support for you to know that they're there for you when you do your final presentation. I wanted to talk a little bit about professionalism in the capstone. So because I'm taking over this course, well, Dr. Bennett taught it over the summer, and Dr. Elizabeth Brooks has been teaching the last few years. I made some changes in how we're grading it, because really the truth is, if you have a good proposal on December 6th, you're going to pass the course. And the previous rubric said 20% of your grade is professionalism, but I don't think anybody's actually really tabulating professionalism. But professionalism is super important, and you will be graded on professionalism in capstone integration, and I'll show you what the rubric looks like for that. But I just want to, at this point, impress upon you the importance of professionalism as you go forward in your capstone. Professionalism with your preceptor, with any subject matter expertise or experts that you use. Make sure you're using good communication skills. They know what's going on. We see students, well, one of the worst things I ever saw, and I don't think this was, believe this was the students' fault, but last semester there were some students working with a preceptor for their capstone projects, and I think only like a week before the final presentations, the preceptor said, you can't present this data in a public forum. So the capstone instructors had to find another solution for those students. But there was a lack of communication somewhere along the line. I kind of don't think it was the students' fault. I think it was on the preceptor side. It's hard for me to really know. But you need to be communicating throughout this process, starting today or last week, or 3 months ago, whenever you started talking to that preceptor. So there's a clear understanding of what you're doing and where it's going, and that you're going to present it at the public health forum in both an oral presentation and a poster presentation. One of the things you need to do is really make sure that your communication is clear as you move forward. You need to be respectful, and in particular, communications need to be respectful. They need to, anger, there's not really a place for anger in your capstone project. Maybe if you have anger, you can express it to your partner or your parents or your cat, but not to your preceptor, and probably not to your coach. Let's be professional. And also with time. So everybody's busy. Is there anybody in this room? If you're not busy, raise your hand. I kind of feel like there's nobody in our society who isn't too busy. So when you make appointments, make sure you're there on time. When you set up appointments, make sure you do it in advance. So you're not calling your preceptor or emailing your preceptor saying, I need to meet with you tomorrow. That's probably going to be hard for them to do. So be respectful in communication, be respectful in time, be on time to meetings, be on time with deadlines. So I do want to spend a little time on this. We have deadlines set up in this course, and we're going to ask you to submit the first part of your proposal on something like October 6th, I forget. And then we're going to ask you to resubmit that part with revisions, and the second section on, I think it's November 6th or something like that. We know that some people may not be ready to submit at that time, but if you're not ready, you're going to get behind as you go forward, and December 6th is the final deadline. So those deadlines are important. You might be ready earlier and then communicate with your coach and say, I think I can submit this September 15th. Can you look at it then? And then I can move on to the next section. So these deadlines are important, and please keep to them. Your coaches have committed to giving you feedback within about a week and a half after those deadlines. If you miss a deadline, you may miss the opportunity for feedback in a timely way. So pay attention to those deadlines. Be ready. If you aren't ready with all the sections, you probably should turn in what you have. I don't know what your experience is, Penny. Yeah. Turn in, yeah. Get the conversation started. Another thing about professionalism is dress and appearance. I'm not going to say any more of that. I'm going to just say, pay attention to how you present yourself to audiences, whatever those audiences might be, that your appearance is appropriate for whatever that audience is. What else does professionalism mean? Are there things that I've left off here? Is there anything coming to mind that is an important aspect of professionalism? It's a really lively group. Oh, I thought I saw someone raise their hand. No. Do you think this covers it? No. What else is there?
Perfectionism is an overarching attitude that you bring with you into the workplace, which says that you're trying to do something that is quality, that is going to give examples of the opportunities that you'll find in the workplace, but that you're also going to get with knowledge on how important the people working there are for your education and your learning. So a lot of it is attitude, and out of that comes, the fact that you don't want to do it, the fact that you don't want to fulfill any of the detrimental to the organization's mission. And you're there to grow with the mission, not to be different. Just to say different. And I know sometimes that's easily hard, but so.
Thank you. So what Dr. Bennett said is that attitude, the attitude that you appreciate the opportunity to work with an agency, that you're there to help them further their mission. I feel like an interpreter who's like not quite, able to restate everything that you said, but it's really about showing those around you that you are there and you take it seriously and you intend to do a professional job and a quality job. But you said it better. So I thought I'd show you what the professionalism rubric looks like for Capstone integration. So you're setting up this relationship now with a preceptor and with subject matter experts, and then in Capstone integration, you're going to be carrying out that work, and the preceptor is going to be weighing in on how that went. So here's what's in the professionalism rubric. Demonstrates excellence in commitment, proactive communication, responsiveness, respect, timeliness, accountability towards preceptor, instructor, and other individuals or entities associated with the Capstone project. Under most circumstances, completes originally proposed Capstone project. Let me just stop for a second and say what does that mean? So you're writing a proposal for a project. When we end up carrying out projects, oftentimes we have to make modifications because there are roadblocks that come up. There are limitations. You thought you were going to do 30 interviews, but you did 20 interviews. So that's something that you need to be keeping open communication. If you're not able to complete your project the way it was originally laid out, sometimes it's necessary to go back to whoever approved your proposal and say, these are the modifications I had to make. Is this proposal still adequate for a capstone project? I would say most of the time the things that happen along the way are pretty minor, and there's not a need to go back and get a proposal reapproved. But keep in mind that we are expecting that you're going to do the project that you said you were going to do. Did you want to add anything to that, Penny? Okay. Okay. And then receives high evaluation ratings from your preceptors. So as I said, your preceptor is going to be filling out a questionnaire saying how you did. So this is a total of 10 points out of 100 in your final grade for capstone integration. I'm trying to think of what are the problems I've seen. I've actually seen some pretty bad professionalism problems, but they're very, it's maybe like, I don't know, 1 out of 50 students where something comes up that we're like, oh my gosh, we need to apologize to the preceptor. Please don't be one of those people. Please, please don't be. So this is the rest of the grading rubric for capstone integration. So I want you to see this now so you're seeing, because this class is just pass-fail. I just have to get a proposal done. No big deal, right? So in the end, you're going to be writing an abstract that summarizes your project. You're going to be putting together a poster presentation, an oral presentation. The written deliverable is the biggest chunk of your grade. It's 40%. And we're going to spend time talking about what different types of written deliverables you might have in another session. And then class participation is 10% and professionalism is 10%. I also want to give you a heads up about the kind of support you can expect during capstone integration. Capstone integration is intended to be an opportunity for students to come together and talk about their projects across disciplines. So you'll be in an interdisciplinary group with people from other concentrations, and the focus is not on helping you get your project done. It's really on communication about that project and being able to communicate to, let's say, well, you're all in community behavioral health department. So maybe you're trying to explain to somebody from biostatistics why it's important to use theory when you develop a program that's intended to change people's health behavior. So that student from biostatistics got a little bit of that in their core class, and they really didn't want to take that core class, and they don't think that's very scientific what you did. So this is the opportunity to learn how to communicate across areas of public health, and that's really the focus of capstone integration. It's not, the focus is not on you coming in saying, I don't know how to do the multiple logistic regression that I had planned for my project. It's not set up to do that. It's set up for this communication. So that's why you need to have your subject matter experts identified when you develop your proposal. So if you're going to be doing a complicated statistical analysis, you need to know who's going to help you if you have trouble completing that statistical analysis. Yeah, I guess that's what this slide says. Okay. So in capstone integration, you're communicating directly with people in your group, but you're also then developing these products that are going to be more publicly communicated, like your poster presentation and your oral presentation. The focus is really on that and integrating ideas across areas of public health. And the leadership of, so you're in capstone integration, there are faculty from throughout the school that lead small groups of about 12 students, and they come from all across the School of Public Health. So you could be led by a statistician, you could be led by an epidemiologist, you could be led from somebody from health systems management and policy. The person leading, the faculty member leading your group may or may not have expertise in what your specific project is. So you can't expect to get subject matter expertise from that person. You might get lucky, and they do, but that's not the goal of that class. So you really need to be thinking now, who's going to help me get through that project? Who's going to get me from where I am? Who's going to help me get from where I am now to the final product through all of those different types of things I need to do to finish my project? Coaches. So your coach is here to help you. So like I said, there's 3 of us that are coaching. Your coach is going to help you develop a feasible and impactful project. They can help you with questions of, does your project fit within your concentration? Do you have a reasonable timeline? I would say most of the time I see timelines that aren't reasonable. So, you know, if you think about 90 hours of work and, I don't know, 3 or 4 months at most to complete a project, you need a scope of work that can really fit within that. Reasonable deliverables and goals. You should be conceptualizing the idea. Your capstone coach shouldn't be doing that for you. They can coach you and guide you towards conceptualizing it, but it really should be your idea. Come to your appointments prepared. So we're requiring that you meet with your coach at least 1 time over the semester, between now and I think I put down December 4th. Well, December 4th is, how many days is that before your project's due? 2 days. So that's not really going to be very helpful. But they need, I guess that was maybe a little bit late. But you need to meet at least once. For many of you, having a meeting, and there's actually a paragraph about this in the syllabus, but for many of you, meeting with them soon, I think it looked like most of you don't know what your project is yet. So meeting with them soon might be super helpful. If you know what your project is, you maybe it's going to be really beneficial to meet with them as you develop the methods for your project. But you must meet with them at least once. You can, I bet you're not here for what we're doing. We say 1 to 3 times. People can meet with their coach more than that, right? Yeah. But you have to do it at least once. So use that to your advantage. Use it, take advantage of it. So I think I already said, when can you get started? Wait till your project's approved, but you can fast track that if you want. I want to, at this point, go over some elements. Let me just stop for a second. Are there any questions while I'm going to switch windows here and give you a moment to think about what questions you have? Let's see if I can find it. Go ahead. What are your questions? Still waiting for questions. Okay, so what I have up here is Canvas. And I just want to show you how I have Canvas set up. So modules is where you're going to find really everything. So here, there's a module for the syllabus. There's the syllabus. There's a module for the capstone proposal form. I was going to print it for you today, and then I looked at how many pages it was and decided I didn't need to do it. So anyway, there it is, the proposal form. There's the PowerPoint for today. There's sign-up sheets to sign up to meet with Dr. Valverde and Dr. Bennett. I haven't put mine up yet because I have to figure out how you use Google Documents first. It's easy? Yeah, thanks. I've put a bunch of examples here, and you don't necessarily need to look at them right now, but maybe you want to. There's an example of a good capstone proposal. although the title is misspelled, so Capstone. I just want to say we have enhanced the proposal this semester. So we've beefed up the background section, and we've added something called context, which I'll talk about next time we meet. But when you look at this proposal, it is a really good proposal, but it is missing a couple of things that we're now going to require you to do in your proposal. And along those lines, because it doesn't have a strong or maybe as strong a background section as now what we'd like to see, I put in an example of a background section that's from a very short grant proposal that I wrote a few months ago on vaping. So I put it in here as an example of what a background section would look like. And I think it's a good one because it actually got funded. So, so that's my standard, is it got funded. Types of capstone projects. So this is that I showed you a slide that had things like, it just had bullet points of types of projects. This provides a little more description for each of those types of projects. And then deliverable examples. Oh, this is a list of, it's a list of different types of deliverables that you might have. It's a longer, well, it's a pretty long list, but it'll give you an idea. And we'll talk about deliverables at one of the sessions later on in the semester. But you know, I said it doesn't need to be a research paper. What does it need to be? This is a list of maybe like 20 different types of deliverables that might be relevant for your project. And I thought I had another document, but it looks like it didn't make it up here. I found a document that has titles of capstone projects from CBH, but it's kind of an old list, but it's got like 40 different titles, and I thought it might be interesting for you to look through. But it looks like I didn't properly load it on here. So that's what Canvas looks like, and I'm going to just now grab the syllabus off of here. I guess I'm getting 2 copies of it. Okay, so this first page, I want to point out, so the dates that we're scheduled to meet are listed there at the top. I changed one of these dates at the recommendation of Dr. Bennett yesterday. So this November 20th, it was listed previously as November 13th, but we realized that November 13th, you're going to be waiting for feedback on your second section of your proposal. So there's not a lot of utility in meeting on that day. So I moved it to November 20th. So I'll just note that here. And we changed it on the schedule online as well. Okay. And so there's who we are, me and Patty and Penelope. I'm going to kind of, in the past, this course has met just 3 times during the semester, and we decided this semester to make the sessions a little bit shorter and to have more sessions. And the syllabus has, I think it's this total of 7 sessions. Some of those sessions, we're making them into question and answer or small group optional kinds of discussions, or we'll kind of see as the semester goes whether people want those sessions or not. We're going to cover all of the content, I think, in about the first 5 sessions, and then it would be more about getting feedback on your sections. So we'll sort of see how that goes as the semester goes along. So as you can tell, there's a Zoom link. In past semesters, the rule has been only the LPH students could join by Zoom. I know that there are a lot of people who work and have constraints, so it's open to everybody if you want to join by Zoom. I'm also taping them because I know there are occasions when people are going to have to miss the sessions. We have one student who lives in Europe, and I don't think she's on here today. So the sessions are going to be taped. I'll post, I mean, assuming I get the technology figured out, which I think is working today, there'll be a link to a YouTube video of the session. So use that. But I think you really will get more if you're here in person and you can ask questions. We're going to try to integrate some small group work where you can meet with your coach and with the other people in your coach's group and get feedback on where you're at with your proposal and what your ideas are, and get direct feedback on those. And I don't think that's going to work very well for people on Zoom, and certainly it's not going to work great for people who are watching the recorded video. So I encourage you to come in person. I'm going to kind of skip through things that I don't think we need to talk about right now. So writing, there is a writing center on campus. They can be very helpful for helping you with your writing. You need to allow turnaround time. So if you want them to review your work and to make suggestions for how to improve your writing, be sure you schedule in the time for that. I have a statement in the syllabus about not turning in first draft writing. When you turn things into your coach, at a minimum, you should have typed it in and read it over and edited it before you sent it to us. But really, think about this like you were at work and you're turning something into your boss. You need it to look, again, professionalism. You want it to look good. You want your grammar to be right. You want your punctuation to be right. You want your formatting to look nice. Treat it seriously when you turn stuff into us. And I'll add to that too, make sure it's original work. So we have over the years seen people copy and paste stuff from the internet, from an article. We're asking you to do a background section. It's not appropriate to cut and paste a background section from something you found on the internet. If you have any doubts about what are the rules about plagiarism and copying and citations, you've all taken a academic integrity module. You can review that again. I'm not making you upload your certificate because you've probably uploaded that same certificate like 8 times by now. But we really do take that seriously, and we do really see errors that students make in the originality of their work. So please, it's amazingly easy for us to detect it. So don't expect that we're not going to notice if that happens. So statistical help. We are very fortunate in community and behavioral health that Dr. Ming Ma, who is a research instructor in the department, has offered to provide students in their capstone with help on statistical analysis. So I think I put her, yes, I did put her email address there. So as far as I know, she's very willing and responsive to helping. If you run into a problem with data analysis, sit down with her. You are expected to do the analysis yourself, but you can get help and advice about how to do it. Qualitative methods. Dr. Valverde just happens to be having a workshop on qualitative methods on November 25th and December 2nd for another class that she's teaching, and she said that students from Capstone can participate in that. So we can find out more from her about that. But if you took the qualitative methods class, I would imagine that you're not going to learn something new from this unless you want a refresher on your skills. But if you find yourself headed towards a qualitative project and you don't have that expertise, this is an opportunity to join in on those workshops and get some of that experience. Canvas, you all know about Canvas, I think. Class etiquette, this is about use of computers in class. So what does it say here? You should not be checking email, watching YouTube videos, or shopping online. So, and if you are, make sure you're not in front of the window because I can see what you're doing. Oh, no, really can't, but academic honesty, students with disabilities, I'd encourage you, if you think you might need accommodations for disabilities, go to the disability office. So as I said earlier, we're going to have you turn in your proposal, and there's a section 1 that you're going to turn in. I didn't put October 7th. And that's going to be the title, whether or not you need IRB approval, the problem statement, the background, and the context. So that's, we put purposely, like my first draft had this due in a few weeks, and my colleagues said many students will not know what their project is in a few weeks. So we're giving you till October, what did I just say, 7th. But that's the point at which you should know what your project is, and you should be able to write about the background of your project. So if you're doing, like my example is about vaping, if you're doing something about vaping, you should be able to write about what's the problem with vaping and what does the research tell us and what do we know about vaping behavior. Then the second section, which is due with the first section being resubmitted, very important point that we're going to keep saying to you, on November 7th. So by November 7th, you're going to have a draft of the whole proposal, because the second section includes everything else in the proposal. So you should have gone back and revised section 1 based on what your coach said, and resubmitted that with section 2, and you'll have a draft of the complete proposal. We know that you may still have things you're not sure about. That's why you're turning in a month before the final one is due, so that we can give you feedback on it. So you'll have a final proposal, or a complete proposal, complete draft at that point. You'll get feedback on that. Your coach may say, I need to see it again because there's this gap, and I need to see that you can fill in that gap before you turn in the final on December 6th. When you turn it in on December 6th, we need it to be something we can approve. So there may be the need for more submissions than these 3 submissions. So listen to your coach, respond to your coach's comments, fix the things they said you need to fix. If you don't understand it, ask them what they meant. But the goal is December 6th, you're done. We're happy, we're all happy, you're ready to move forward. Just got bigger. The next section just says that you have to meet with your coach, and then the rest of this is I've set up a weekly schedule. This has 3 columns. The first column is what we're doing in class. Most of the time there's no class. What are you working on? So there's a guide here to what you should be working on. So right now, you should be identifying your project and your preceptor. And then what's due? Well, right now it's December 1st. So it's 5 days before the final proposal is due. You must meet with your coach by December 1st. So you can go through this and you can get our idea about what you should be doing each week and what's going to happen in class. I guess and then I do want to say that on the last week, December, we're going to have probably an optional question and answer session on December 4th. I really want to encourage you to attend the Public Health Forum on December 6th. It's Friday. There's some free food. See what the projects are like. See what it's like for people to present. You know, you're going to be doing the same thing 5 months later. See what that's like. Has anybody been to the Public Health Forum already? Shocking. No one has. So see what that's like. See what it's like for somebody to do a 10-minute presentation followed by 5 minutes of questions and answers. What kind of questions are people asking? Get a feel for what that's like, because you're going to be standing up there not that long after that. Okay, so it's 2:15. I think I'm not going to go over the proposal form because we can talk about it next time. You've got it if you want to look at it, but I would like somebody to ask me a question. There must be things in your head right now about like, uh-oh, what am I going to do? Thank you.
So we're allowed to interact with agencies. If we have ties to other institutions, are there ways of creating projects across institutions?
I would say absolutely you can create a project across institutions, so like another academic institution. Sure. I think things to watch, to just sort of be aware of would be if there's IRB issues, like you're going to be collecting data, there may be particular things you'll need to be concerned about, like you might need an IRB review both here and at the other institution. But absolutely it can be a project with another institution. Yes.
So my work did kind of do a project and we selected all the information and all the data. But I was wondering if I could possibly look at that data. Is that considered okay?
Sure. I think it's actually really common for people to use data that were collected by someone else, some other place. The critical thing would be for you to develop a strong research question. I mean, it depends on what an evaluation question, a research question, and then use the data to answer that question. But yeah, absolutely. What else?
This is Jason online.
Is it feasible to create an evaluation protocol and actually carry it out and create it? Would that creation of the evaluation?
Yeah, so the question is about creating an evaluation plan. What do you think, Penny? I think so.
I would say yes. In your video, you included how we developed and an explanation why we did each step by step in the process. With a very clear sort of next steps, kind of description, right? What would you be next?
Yeah, so the question is, could you develop an evaluation plan as your capstone project? And the answer is yes. It would need to be a fairly detailed evaluation plan. If you were, let's say you were going to be collecting various different types of data, you'd want to have the protocols, or at least a short description of the protocols for collecting that data. There might be an analysis plan for the data. There might be, if you're using survey tool, let's say you're measuring diet and physical activity, you might identify how you're going to measure those things. So I think, yeah, I think that could be a great capstone. And then I think Jason, I think you were trying to get a word in edgewise.
Yeah, so I'm doing my practicum this fall as well. And part of that practicum is implementing some kind of public health interventions to increase screening for STIs. And if we're implementing a project and we're not supposed to be working on our capstone project at the same time, can you go back and evaluate that project that you implemented as your capstone after the fact?
Yeah, so could you guys in the room hear that? Okay, so Jason asked if he's working on a project on STD prevention for his practicum right now, could he go back and evaluate that program as his capstone? And I would say, absolutely. That sounds great. And are you thinking, Jason, that you would actually complete the evaluation or design the evaluation?
Probably complete the evaluation.
Great, that's great. I think, yeah, we're excited about that. Any other questions? Yes. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Oh gosh, your coaches, yes. Yeah, sorry about that. Let me show you who your coaches are. There they are. Let's get this into full screen. Yeah, so again, the right side is cut off, but at least we can see the last names over there. So, so Patty Valverde, who's not here today, she's got it. It's all CBH without global, except Carolyn Ho, who I don't think I see here today, who is it is a custom concentration. Penny has all the global people plus a couple of custom concentration, and the only MCH that was on the list, at least when I looked at it. I have the LPH and a few custom, or maybe only one custom concentration. So there's the list. You know, this is also online, and that the PowerPoint presentation is online. Go ahead and sign up for the other two coaches, but not for me. I'll try to get that up in the next day so that people can sign up for me. I am out of the office next week, but could potentially meet with you on Friday if you want. Penny, you had your hand up, I think. Oh, okay. Anything else? How do y'all feel? Excited? I'm excited for you. Okay, I think we're done for today.
One more question from.
Yeah, Jason.
So regarding, is there a certain number of classes that we're required to attend live versus watching online if we do work?
No, there is not. I'm just not gonna, he asked if there's a certain number of sessions he has to attend live versus online. And my answer is no. I think, again, you'll get more out of it if you're here, because we didn't have time today, but I would like to have us, and the coaches agreed to break into small groups and have some discussions within groups about the projects, which I think we probably just won't try to do for anybody online, because I can't, well, if someone wants to help me figure that out, we could potentially. But yes, we're not making a restriction on that. Anything else? Okay, I think we're gonna start.
Yeah. Real quick, will you please share with Penny that it looks like her sign up link is view only.
Oh, Penny, your sign up thing is view only apparently. So you're telling me how easy it is. Okay, so she's gonna go check it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, well,